Said, all right, Sandy. We on? Oh, hi, guys. Well, this is my fourth interview, and you saw Bobby's interview, right? Right? You saw Brenda's interview, right? You saw Dion's interview. Now, this is a very special interview because this represents Brooklyn, the Bronx, Chicago, Jay and the Americans, ladies and gentlemen. And individually, why don't you introduce yourselves?
Hi, I'm Sandy Dean, also Sandy Yaguda.
I'm Howie Kane, and for my Jewish friends, Howie Kirschenbaum.
I'm Marty Sanders, also known as Marty Coopersmith.
And I'm Jay Reinke, also known as
Jay Reinke.
You know, guys, and it's funny, you know, very few groups have a name Jay and the Americans. Believe me, the first Jay was Jay Traynor.
Right.
Right?
John J.
The Irish kid.
Yeah, who the Irish kid also sang with the Mystics.
Right.
And wound up later singing with the Tokens.
Exactly. So now, what do you do as all of the years go by where you have a different lead, and a different lead? Yet they continue with the same sound that you had and made you famous. Now, the first song was She Cried.
Right.
And they had two great producers, Jerry Lieber and Mike Stoller. Now, do you know who these guys were? The Coasters, the Drifters, the whole thing. Drip, Drop, Ruby Baby.
Big Mama Thornton.
Right. Now, is this why you guys wind up re-recording some of the songs?
Yeah.
This magic moment, right?
Yeah, we signed up with Jerry Lieber and Mike Stoller. Actually, they signed us.
Mm-hmm.
We were thrilled because we heard all their records.
Right.
We were big fans of the Drifters and the Coasters and the strings and the horns on their records. And lo and behold, we got lucky.
Right.
And they took us on. And you walk into the office, and in one room, the Drifters are rehearsing, the Coasters are rehearsing, Carole King, and all of these people are coming and playing their demos for them to say, hey, that's a good one, you know, or fix this.
Backrack and David.
Backrack and David, all of the great writers would
You know,
do that
New
office.
York really was the hub. You know, you said something, Sandy, which was interesting. You said this cruise brings the East, the West, brings the Beach Boys sounds, the street corner sounds, bring the Clash sounds, and the Nashville sounds. And back in the early days in the record business, New York, the Brill Building, New York 1650, you had songwriters, and they were kids. You guys were basically kids when it all began.
We were babies.
Exactly.
We were babies, and the writers were so established, you know, and we were just blessed to get these songs, to hear them and sing them. And
Now, you know, Jerry and Mike, whether you realize it or not, they were responsible for Phil Spector.
Yep.
Because Phil was
Shadow Morton, Phil Spector, Ellie Greenwich, all of these people.
all those guys. And when they saw something in you guys, it had to be very special.
We, like I said, we were thrilled. They were the top of the food chain. They were the first independent record producers in the music business. And they took us on. They thought we were cool.
I remember, you remember a song called Only in America? Only in America. The lyric on that, explain the lyric on that, Sandy.
Well, originally that song was for the Drifters.
And they recorded it.
And they recorded it. Jerry and Mike recorded them on that song, submitted it as their next release to Atco Records, which is a division of Atlantic. And they listened to that record. It was 1962, 63. And Atco said, no, we would never let a black act sing Only in America. No black guy could ever be president.
Well,
That was the line.
a few weeks before
Only
that.
in America.
Now, wait, here's what happened. Marty's got a
few
good
weeks
point.
before that,
A
a church was bombed in Alabama, and 4 little girls were killed.
Yeah.
So they couldn't,
They
in
said, we
all
can't get behind
conscience.
a black act singing that
And
song.
you know what? When we first walked in, first a little backstory. The song was originally called "Only in the Movies."
movies.
And it was
Yeah.
written by Barry Mann and Cynthia Weil, who are still married to this very day.
Right.
And
Which is unusual.
yes, and having gone through 2, 3, had to kill him. But it was originally written only in the movies, Barry Mann, Cynthia Weil, and then Jerry and Mike heard it, and they rewrote it with them, and it became Only in America. One day we walked into the office, and Jerry says, "Hey guys," in his little Baltimore accent. He says, "Want to hear the Drifters' new record?" And we say, "Yeah, sure." And they play the acetate of Only in America with Rudy Lewis singing lead.
Yeah.
And I look at Kenny, Kenny looks at me, and we look at Jerry and we say, "Hey, we're Jay and the Americans.
We want to do
You,
it.
Why
didn't
wouldn't you
give
do
it
that
to
for
us?
us?
And Jerry says, "Hey guys, that's the way it goes."
And it became the biggest record,
Then-
#1 for you guys, as Jay
As-
and the
with the
Americans.
Americans.
With the
Yeah.
new J #2, that was our first hit.
And it was a turntable hit because it had a long intro,
Right.
a long outro. The DJ,
Jack's
the
guitar
DJ,
over it.
Yeah.
It was boom, boom. You know,
the DJ could yak in the beginning, and he could do a commercial at the end, and we sang in the middle. So it was a sandwich.
when
Yeah.
I played it, I just hit it right on the post. Only in America.
all right.
You know, and because in those days in radio, you would come out of a jingle. Da 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 da.
Yep.
Hit it. Only in America.
Oh.
And it was dramatic, absolutely dramatic. Cara Mia, that was not supposed to be, right? That was supposed to be the B-side.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
Tell him about
Listen,
Ciao Ragazzi.
Well, first of all, let me finish the Only in America thing. When we heard that record, like he said, we flipped and wanted it. Now, they spent a lot of money recording that session, and they weren't recouping it because Atco said, "We're not releasing that
Atlantic,
record." So we get a call from Jerry Lieber and Mike Stoller. "Hey, guys, you remember that song you wanted to record? Well, how would you like to do it?" And we went, "Sure." And we didn't realize that they were doing that to recoup all the money they'd spent on the
With
record
track,
session with the
track.
Drifters.
Yes, exactly.
So we go in, and now they're playing the Drifters track in the Drifters key, and we're singing it, and it's too low.
Wow.
So we record the record, and we were not happy with the result. So Jerry and Mike go in the studio, and they speed it up. And they put a couple of raps around the
Capstan.
capstan, and it sped the record up. And then the record company heard it, and they
They
said,
put a couple.
"It's a little too slow. Let's master it and speed it up."
Right.
And by the time the record came out,
Donald Duck.
we sound like the Three Chipmunks singing Only in America. And if you listen now that I told you this, you will hear Alvin and the guys.
And
Also, in the background was still the Drifters.
Yeah.
Yes.
They also
And
are still
Dee
on
Dee
the
Warwick,
record.
Yeah.
Dionne Warwick's aunt and uncle.
Sissy
aunt.
was on
Sissy
that,
was-
and Dee Dee was on that.
And we sang on top of it.
Yeah, you know, it's funny. Dion was here. Dion Warwick was with
Dion
us.
who?
Dion Warwick.
Who?
You never heard
Warwick.
of Dion? But she used to do backup
Yeah.
with Sissy for all these guys.
Yeah, when they needed girl singers,
They
that's
get
who they
booked.
were. It was either the Blossoms or them.
Yes, and the Blossoms, as you know, Darlene Love will
Darlene.
be with us, you know, on the next cruise. But interesting enough, it was not on Atlantic when it came out.
Atco, right?
It was no, your version
Oh,
was
you- United
UA.
It was on UA.
It should have been on Atlantic.
Right.
They weren't on
Right.
Echo. They were on
And
Atlantic.
yet, the track and the background was all basically
Atlantic people.
Atlantic people.
And we used the Atlantic studio and the engineer, the famous.
ARF, ARIF Madden.
No,
Arif,
the
no.
engineer, not Arif Martin. Come on.
Marty,
Rose.
Tommy Dowd.
Rose.
Tom Dowd.
Tom Dowd.
Tom Dowd. Tom Dowd.
Yeah.
And with that, we will take a little break and we will be back with Jay and the Americans, ladies and gentlemen. Wow. Wow. We're back with Jay and the Americans, and we're talking about music and back in the day when it really was music. Only in America, big song. Now let's segue to Caramel, which was not supposed to be, I understand.
No, everybody laughed at us when we told the record people we wanted to record it because it was so outside the
Right.
box. You know, I mean, there was no rock opera. There was not even that term. And Jay Black just, when he joined our group after the first Jay left, he auditioned with that song. Marty and Jay Black were neighbors, and they sang together as a duo. They were the poor man's Everly Brothers from Brooklyn. We called them the Neverly Brothers.
And he's still a poor man.
We were called the Two Chaps, and they actually released. We were actually. I could have known Sandy, but I didn't.
And Kenny.
We were all on the same little label called Ivy Records. They had a song called "Lullaby of the Bells."
Oh, wait
By
a
the
second.
Deltaires.
Deltaires.
Right.
Ding dong, lullaby of the bells.
Right.
Wonderful record.
But and that was like the parent. They signed us, and then they leased our masters to
Was
other
that
little
Dice,
companies.
Dice Records?
Ivy Records.
Right, exactly. And they also did Because of My Best Friend. Besides
Yeah,
Lullaby,
my best
Because of My Best Friend.
Right.
Wow.
And Jay and I, or David Blatt, who became Jay Black, were neighbors, and we were like best friends at the time. We grew
He
up
hated
together.
you.
And he
Didn't he keep everybody from
That's all
beating you
right.
up?
And when if I got beat up, he'd say, "Let's go get those guys." And that's the way it was.
It's true.
So David Whitfield was an English truck driver, a garbage man, who had a hit with a song called Caramia that Sandy knows it was written by who?
It was written by Trapani. His name was Tullio Trapani, but his real name was Mantovani, and Mantovani was embarrassed that he wrote a pop song,
Mantovani.
so he used his brother-in-law's name on the record.
Aye.
Okay, and we knew all of this stuff, right?
right.
So when J number one quit the group to go solo, Marty and
I didn't
Howie,
wanna say
Howie knew
anything.
about Marty and
The story
Dave.
is great because
And he says, "Why don't you call your buddy Dave?"
I'm in the basement, in Sandy's basement,
Right.
and my father got us a gig at his favorite gin mill.
Uh-huh.
So we had, because we didn't have an act, so we had to work on an act.
We used
had
to do shout for 25 minutes.
right.
You know, you make me want to shout.
So we had to work on an act, and we were all there except for Trainer. So Sandy calls Trainer.
Says, "We're having a rehearsal. Where
well,
are you?"
And he says, "Well, I'm the lead singer. You guys learn the backgrounds and tell me what song you're doing,
Right.
and I'll do the song."
I say, "It
and
doesn't
he said-
work that way."
He said, "How could you be in a group and not be at
Rehearsal.
And he
Right.
said, "What do you derive from that question?" And somebody said,
Well.
you mean you quit?" And he said, "You said it."
I did.
And then it was,
Okay, but don't come back.
That's it. Doors closed.
F me, F me.
And then 3 days later,
David Black.
these guys saying, "What did you do?"
I didn't want to say anything because
What
I
did
didn't
you
want to
do?
You
I didn't-
realize I'm taking all this in.
I didn't want it to be like I was.
What
I
did
was
you
pulling
do? There was panic in the room.
Panic.
And I said, "Don't panic. We've got the name. We've got the deal with
Absolutely.
Lieber and Stoller. We'll get another guy."
I didn't want to say
And
anything
he's-
because I didn't want to
He
seem like
says,
I was
"What
making
about
a.
Dave?"
I
3
didn't want-
days later, Dave drives out and walks into the house. And I say, "Dave, sing a song that shows your voice off. Whatever song you think shows off your voice best." And he hits one chord on the guitar. Evidently, they had done this
That's all I
together
know.
before.
To this
You
day.
still
And
that's
he,
all
sang,
the
and he
chords.
sang Caramia. Okay?
Amazing.
And when he finished it, my parents were leaning over the banister of the basement, and the neighbors had come down. I mean, his voice was booming. So we said, "You're not Dave anymore, you're Jay."
Okay.
Right.
You know, it's
But the point is, I didn't want to say I know a guy because I didn't want it to seem
Now we
like
can be mad at
I
him.
was making a
the guy
power
that made
play.
the other guy fired.
I didn't want to. I didn't want to have a power play, and Howie got me off the hook.
the
by
hook.
Yeah.
Thanks
By
to
saying,
you.
"What about your buddy Dave?"
Is that what you actually said, Howie?
Yeah.
You be quiet. You're not even alive yet.
Now, wait a minute.
He was 8 years old.
Yeah,
when
you
this
know, it was
going
funny
on.
because I got to tell you, it was hilarious. I happened to notice that the only appearance you guys ever made on American Bandstand was with Jay Trainer on April the 6th. And that was,
Wow.
yeah, well, I remember it well because it was April the 6th is my birthday. So on my 8th birthday, they appeared on American Bandstand. My much older sister was watching the show. I don't even really remember it, but it was kind of cool.
You know,
I was crying in the green room because they wouldn't let me on. I didn't
He
have,
brought the wrong. He didn't have the right suit. They wouldn't let him go on the show.
Wait, how do you guys agree on one thing?
We don't.
You know,
Actually, 3 of us do.
It's been 56 years, and somehow we get through it all.
It's like a family, brothers and sisters. You know, yeah, but okay, it's showtime. You know, through all of the years, though, you've seen the way the music has changed. You guys did wonderful material.
Thank you.
Which truly is Jay and the American sound. There's nothing like it any law in our industry.
We all think, listen, I think personally that we are the blessed generation, that we had the best music ever of all time. But you know what? And our parents thought we were nuts, and we think our kids are nuts. And somehow the good stuff always rises to the top. The problem is today, anybody with a computer and a microphone can download, and they're on YouTube or whatever. So there's a lot more junk out there.
Yeah.
Okay? But there's still gems coming through.
You know, Sand, we spoke about this when we did the bandstand interview about the clock. When we were young, when you guys were perfecting your trade, you watched all the other guys. You saw what they did. You listened to their harmony. See, that's the problem today with kids today. They don't listen, or they don't have the heroes that they want to be. Like, give me some of the guys that influenced you, the groups that you guys liked.
Well, we can Frankie Lyman and the Teenagers for one.
The Heartbeats.
Ah,
yeah.
the
Jay and the
greatest.
Americans.
Well, no, but when I saw the Frankie Lane show,
Right, when Frankie
and those kids
Lyman was on
jumped
it.
over the fence in
that
those
was great, yeah.
sweaters,
Right.
That album cover.
I looked at that show and I went, I want to do that.
Yeah.
And when I saw the Everly Brothers
Yep.
on Ed Sullivan, those are young people singing young music.
I just saw them an hour ago.
You know,
and there
and that was the inspiration. You know,
Well, you
were
know,
groups that were real musicians like the Flamingos.
yeah, the
Moonglows.
Wait, Zeke and Carrie, the two brothers, and Tommy Hunt with
Best.
You know, the greatest were the Treniers.
Oh, yeah.
I
yeah.
mean, you guys remember the Treniers?
The Rayovacs.
Yeah. The Treniers were the black Louis Prima. They had that act.
Howie is all Louis
Alan
Prima.
Freed used them a lot.
Yep. But it's such an interesting.
Louis Jordan.
Oh, Tiffany 5, Tiffany
Yeah,
6,
that's-
going on down. All those guys. So, you know, the education with music comes from all those that came before us. And then you perfect it, and then you're picking on up.
Growing up in New York, Marty is a country and western guy. His hero
Williams.
was Hank Williams. And being a New York kid, you could turn the radio dial and get country music. Or you could turn the dial and get Latin music, which influenced us a lot.
sure.
We
Tito
added a lot
Puente.
of that to our records. We had a lot of Latin percussion and stuff going on. We were fortunate enough to hear a wide variety.
I'm going to give you a name, George Goldner. George Goldner came from the world of Latin, Tico.
That's right.
He had 3 labels, which were the greatest labels ever. Gond, and Rama, and then G at the very beginning.
Yeah.
And he knew, see, there were certain guys, even Jerry and Mike, were visionaries that knew what young America was looking for. Our music was completely different than our parents' music. You know, it might have been considered what we consider today the music that we hear.
Right.
It was something completely different. And back in those days, you mentioned groups, the Heartbeats, the Flamingos, the Moonglows, the
Five
Spangles.
Keys, the Spaniel.
Spaniels.
That's where it all came from. Pookie Hudson and all those guys like that. I'll tell you a great story. Hank Williams. You will notice that on. We'll take a little break and we're going to tell you a great story about Hank Williams and Jay and the Americans. A big hand. The applause is for Jay and the Americans. Now, before I tell you the Hank Williams story, someone in the audience said, "Some Enchanted Evening," which, I mean, South Pacific. Whoa,
Rodgers and Hammerstein.
Whoa, right. Now, is that because of the success of Caramel?
Yes.
Absolutely.
The record company always wanted a follow-up to be similar to the one before it, which didn't always work.
No.
But that
We like to not do that, actually.
Well, everyone likes it.
Our records, if you notice, the very first record we did was Tonight from West Side Story.
yes,
Which was a local hit. And then we got to do She Cried, which originally was a country and western demo
yeah,
that Jerry and Mike changed. Then we went and we did Come a Little Bit Closer was the next one? Or?
No,
Only in America.
right,
Which sounded like it was from West Side Story.
Right.
But it wasn't.
Then
And
Artie
then
Let's
Let's Lock
took
the
us
let's
to-
lock.
Door.
Let's lock the doors. You know, come to think of it, you guys were doing different material.
all the time.
And you loved all the harmony doo-wops, but you were doing something completely different.
Yeah.
And yet your love was street corner harmony, and your music was completely different than anything.
We tried to blend everything together, like I say, the Latin, the street harmony, but made it a little hipper, not the same 4 chords, maybe 5 or 6 chords.
Right.
But it made it interesting. And then the arrangements with the strings and the horns and the Latin percussion.
Amazing,
It
amazing.
just was a beautiful blend,
and,
a
and-
crossover.
and with United Artists, which was a big United Artists
Big movie
originally
company.
was not a rock and roll label. If you,
It was a movie
Frankie
United
and Teicher was the
right.
biggest act.
But everyone agrees Hank Williams, right?
Yeah.
Right? I got to tell you a great story which you guys will love. Tony Bennett is a friend of mine. So I'm with Tony, and we're having dinner, and we were talking about music because of you, Columbia Records, and Cold Heart, which, as you know, was written by Hank Williams. So I said, "Hey, did you ever get an opportunity to see Hank Williams?" He says, "Let me tell you." He said, "I was on my way to Chicago, from New York to Chicago, and on the plane was Hank Williams." And he said, "I went up and I said, Mr. Williams, I'm such a big fan. I want you to know that I recorded one of the songs that you did." Hank said to him, "Yeah, I know, and I hated that version that you did." He said, Tony just went, "Oh, okay, Mr. Williams." True story.
He loved
True
the money,
story.
though, and he was so proud whenever it would play.
Right.
He'd go traveling with his group, and they'd go into a little town, into a diner, and on the jukebox was Tony Bennett's version.
Of
And
Coke.
he'd play it. He'd play
Yeah, well, Hank
put
didn't
like
like
$1
it too.
worth in, and when it was only a nickel.
Interesting story. Jerry Lieber and Mike Stoller wrote Hound Dog.
Right.
But they wrote it and they gave it to Big Mama Thornton.
Yeah.
They produced it.
And they loved that record.
Right.
And then
They produced
Jerry
it.
was coming home from a cruise to Europe with his wife. And Mike Stoller meets him on the dock and says, "We have this huge hit." He says, "What's the hit? What song?" He says, "Hound Dog." And he goes, "By who?" He says, "By this new guy, Elvis." So he played it and he listened to it and he hated it. He says, "I like Mama Thornton's version
Well, yeah.
better."
Well, that became almost like a lounge song. Everybody, "You ain't nothing but a hound dog." I mean, Freddie Bell and the Bell
Even
Boys.
this guy does it once. in a while.
I
Little
mean,
bit.
ain't nothing but a hound dog.
everybody did it.
Everybody.
Everybody did it.
Every bad Elvis does it.
Out of all of the songs, though, can you guys agree on the one song that you feel you loved better than all the other songs?
No.
No.
No. Okay, you can't agree. How
No,
about,
because we all have our favorites.
right? Your
You know?
favorite?
My favorite is Come a Little Bit Closer.
Yeah.
I love that song.
All right.
I think it's a great record. And it's on the charts.
Absolutely.
Again,
Now.
Yeah, I know.
Guardians of the Galaxy 2.
Wow.
It's in the movie.
Yeah.
Your favorite?
My favorite is
A microphone.
Magic Moment.
Okay.
Magic Moment.
Yeah. Yep. Yep.
I kind
Written
of like
great
Walking
song.
in the Rain.
Oh, you see, that's what I'm saying. You guys re-recorded hits with your sound,
Totally
which
different,
became
yeah.
hits all over again.
Well, that was I'm sorry. That was was produced I have this problem. I go up on stage.
He's walked out in front of the mic at least 3 times.
Listen, that happened with Brenda. She was sitting there talking. She realized she didn't have a microphone.
I think I'm mesmerizing the audience. They're not talking. Then I realized I don't have the mic. They couldn't hear me. But that's
Do you remember what you were saying?
yeah.
Hint? Want a hint?
Yeah.
Rose.
He had a favorite. You're a favorite.
No, you were going to say it's because of.
Because
magic
of
moment.
you.
I'll tell you what. I'll call you tomorrow. And
He wants to tell you that I produced the album,
Yes.
and we all
Right.
picked
Yes,
it.
very
But the
important.
real story is we were cold. You know, when you have a career like we had, there were times when we were blazing hot, and then times when we were dead in the water. Because every record you make isn't good, and every record you make isn't a hit, even if it's a good one.
Some of the good ones are.
And some of the good ones aren't hits. So we were cold, and nobody was giving us really great material. We didn't like the stuff that Marty was writing. So
Was Jerry
no,
still
it's the truth.
producing you guys?
No, we got our own. We
Oh,
went out on our own. Nobody was paying attention to us.
Okay.
And I always wanted to produce records anyway.
Right.
I learned from Jerry and Mike, they're the best.
Right.
So we decided that we were going to take all of the songs that we loved that before we were famous
Right.
and record them our own way. Everybody made a list. Each guy wrote 10 songs down, and we melded the list together, and we came up with an album called Wax Museum. And on
Great
Wax,
album.
And on Wax Museum,
Second one. The first
or Sands of
Sands of
Time,
Time.
was
Sands
the
of
first
Time.
album. And we went into the studio, we arranged it all ourselves. We all agreed on the 10 songs, and we recorded This Magic Moment as a tribute to the Drifters record, because we love the Drifters. We always wanted to be the White Drifters. And we came close. You know, we're pretty good at it.
You know my favorite song out of that? Hushabye.
And we
You know
we
the
do
song?
that song.
Yeah, we do that in our act every night.
Hushabye originally was by the Mystics. Can you do a little
Doc
bit?
Thomas and Mort Schumann wrote
Yeah.
that one.
Whoa, 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 Hushabye, hushabye. Oh, my darling, don't you cry. Guardian angels up above, take care of the one I love. Oh, hushabye.
Amazing, amazing. Now, very few groups can take a hit from another artist and apply their own sound and have a hit again. That is what the success of these guys are about, their own sound. You know, I was talking with Bill Medley, okay, and Don and Dewey.
Yeah.
You have Justine. See,
Mama Jamma, Mama Jamma.
yeah. I mean, you know, my man. You see, you really came from that world.
Yeah.
And then again, it goes back to the people that we
Your
love.
friend, Tony
And
Bennett.
I'm leaving it all up to you. Was
Yep.
that Don and Dewey?
Your friend Tony
I'm leaving
Bennett
it all.
said the best quote I ever heard. He said, somebody came up to him and said, "What do I tell a kid today about how to get started?" And he said, "Tell him to study all of the stuff that went before him. Study as far back as he can go, and then find your own way." And that's what it's about.
You know, you guys had to have a love for what you're doing at a very early age, even before you all got together.
In the crib.
That you know, I come from a broken family.
Right.
Jewish, Italian, racketeer father.
A jawap.
Yeah, Giuap. So the mezzo italiano, mezzo Giuap. But I found music because my mother had to get a job as a riveter because he was always in the can.
Music
my
can
father.
save everybody.
Music, I remember listening to the radio, going to camp, $50 a week, YMCA camp, and hearing Joe Stafford doing "You Belong to Me."
Pyramids. Blah.
And then in 1962, this was 1952, the original.
And Joe
Then-
Stafford didn't say souvenirs.
No, you're right. You're right. And then I heard the Duprees with that Glenn Miller sound.
Yeah.
And that was the beginning. But it went back to Joe Stafford.
Yep.
It went back where you guys came from, back to when you first felt that music in your heart.
There's something almost religious experience about four guys, just their voices, hitting harmonies. And when they do it right, it's really like makes your hair stand up on your
Do you
arm.
know?
There's something very religious, Sandy,
Yeah.
about 4 guys or 5 guys sitting in a car going to some little gig out of town.
Yeah. And
And the
sing,
local DJ
plays your record.
all of a sudden says, and here's the number
Boom.
1 record in our town. And oh my God, what a
Your
feeling.
heart really
Oh
pounds.
my
Yeah.
God.
You
And
know,
nothing beats that.
We spoke to Dion. We had a wonderful interview with Dion, and everybody knows some of the things that went through his life. The one thing that saved him, beside God, was music. And he said that. The one thing that saved him was music, going back in those days. I could sit, every time we do these interviews, we could stay all day, right, guys and gals? But we got to go. But I got to tell you, you guys are 1 in a million with your sound. Ladies and gentlemen,
Thank you.
Jay and the Americans. Really.